At 61, I wasn't afraid of being alone anymore. Life had already taught me how to enjoy quiet mornings, long walks, and evenings spent with a good book. But opening the door to someone new? That felt much harder. My name is Carol Bennett, and by that point, I had been widowed for nearly 7 years. The man I was meeting was named Thomas Reed. We had exchanged a few messages online. Nothing fancy. Just simple conversations about gardening, old movies, and the strange realization that our favorite songs were now considered classics. The problem wasn't Thomas. The problem was that I wasn't arriving alone. My 11-year-old niece, Emma, was staying with me that weekend while her parents attended a family event out of state. Emma was deaf. She was bright, funny, curious, and one of the greatest blessings in my life. But I worried. I worried that Thomas would think it was strange. I worried that bringing a child to a first meeting would make things awkward. Most of all, I worried that he would see responsibility where he hoped to find freedom. As I drove toward the cafe, Emma sat beside me quietly, watching the world pass outside her window. She noticed my nervousness immediately. She always did. At a red light, she touched my arm and signed. "You're thinking too much." I laughed. Maybe she was right. Some things never change. Even at 61, I could still feel like a nervous teenager. The cafe sat on a corner downtown. It reminded me of places my husband and I used to visit years ago. The smell of coffee. The soft music. The comfortable chairs worn smooth by countless conversations. For a moment, standing outside the door, memories washed over me. Life moves forward. But certain feelings stay with us forever. I took a deep breath and walked inside. Thomas was already there. He stood when he saw us. He was taller than I expected, with silver hair and a warm smile that reached his eyes. For a brief second, my anxiety returned. Would he be disappointed? Would he feel surprised? Would he wish he had stayed home? Instead, he smiled and said, "You must be Carol. And this young lady must be Emma. Not the child. Not your niece. Emma." He had remembered her name from one of our messages. Something inside me softened. We sat together near the window. At first, conversation came slowly. The way it often does when two people are trying to learn each other's rhythm. Outside, autumn leaves drifted across the sidewalk. Inside, sunlight spilled across the table. Emma sat quietly drawing in a small notebook. Every now and then, Thomas glanced toward her with genuine interest rather than discomfort. That mattered more than he probably realized. Then something unexpected happened. Emma looked up from her drawing and studied Thomas for several seconds. She had always been an excellent judge of character. Children often are. She caught my attention and began signing. Her hands moved gently. Her expression was thoughtful. I watched carefully. Then I felt my heart squeeze. She signed. "He has kind eyes." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Of all the things she could have noticed, that was what she saw first. Not his clothes. Not his age. Not his appearance. His kindness. I smiled and translated her words. Thomas looked genuinely touched. His eyes became slightly misty. Then he said something I will never forget. My grandmother used to say that eyes tell you how someone treats people when nobody is watching. The table grew quiet. Not uncomfortable quiet. The kind of quiet that feels warm. The kind mature people learn to appreciate. When we're young, we often rush to fill every silence. As we grow older, we learn that some silences carry their own meaning. The afternoon unfolded gently after that. Emma taught Thomas a few simple signs. He practiced each one carefully. Not because he had to. Because he wanted to. His first attempts were clumsy enough to make Emma laugh. Soon all three of us were laughing together. The sound felt familiar somehow. Like family gatherings from years ago. Like summer evenings on front porches. Like moments that remind us life still has new joys waiting around unexpected corners. Hours passed faster than any of us realized. We talked about careers, grandchildren, old mistakes, favorite memories, and lessons learned. The subjects changed naturally, like a river finding its course. And somewhere during those conversations, I noticed something important. Thomas wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't performing. He wasn't selling a version of himself. He was simply being kind. There is a difference. And by our age, most of us know it immediately. As the sun began to lower, we finally stood to leave. Outside the cafe, the air carried that familiar autumn coolness. The kind that makes you pull your sweater a little tighter. Emma stepped beside me. Then she surprised both of us. She signed directly to Thomas. Slowly. Carefully. He watched her hands. I translated. "Thank you for being nice to my aunt." For a second, nobody spoke. Then Thomas smiled. The same gentle smile he had worn all afternoon. He signed one word back. It wasn't perfect. But Emma understood immediately. "Friend." Her face lit up. And so did mine. Driving home later, Emma looked content. The sky glowed gold beyond the windshield. The world seemed unusually peaceful. Finally, she signed one last thought. Sometimes good people find each other. I smiled at the road ahead. After 6 decades of life, I had learned many lessons. I had learned that success fades. Possessions come and go. Plans change. Time moves faster than we expect. But kindness remains. It stays in remembered conversations. In patient gestures. In welcoming smiles. In the way someone chooses to treat another human being. That afternoon didn't begin with certainty. It began with worry. With hesitation. With all the doubts that often accompany new beginnings. Yet it ended with something far more valuable. A reminder that acceptance still exists. That gentle hearts still exist. And that sometimes, the people who see goodness most clearly are not adults at all. Sometimes, it's a child who quietly notices what truly matters. A child who looks at a stranger and simply says, "He has kind eyes." And sometimes, that is enough to change everything.